Now that we know that you are doing syndication, small syndications, right? So walk us through your syndication deals that you have done, and I think you have done one deal, right?
Yeah, so we actually just raised money for the second syndication, that four units that I told you that we said were under contract. That is actually for that second fundraise. Um, but those deals, we've approached basically with the same philosophy and mindset that we approach our own personal portfolio with. Now, what we realized and why we decided to fundraise for those deals is because we recognized we had so many people who, were hearing from us or through the grapevine about what we were doing and how we were investing in real estate. And so many people were texting us either to try and partner up or to try and learn so they could do it themselves. We realized that we could kind of do a win-win benefit for everybody by not only raising the money and buying a deal altogether that we knew we would have more purchasing power and more ability to make a bigger deal happen, but also we take the time to educate people in the process once they've invested, even people who attended the presentation to get involved and decided to sit out this round. We still happily educate and pass information along so that they're able to learn. So I think it's a dual benefit of investing all together and also helping other people learn so that they can do it themselves.
So the deal that you are under contract right now, let's walk through that. So what's the deal size on that one?
So it's an interesting property. It is a four unit property, but it's student housing. So it's actually rented out in a rent by the bedroom for student housing situations. So while it is four units, four leases, each bedroom is actually charged the exact same amount of rent, and so the leases are divided by that. Excuse me, the leases are drawn up that way in terms of the price per month because some of the units have four bedrooms, some have three. But the reason it's perfect for that sort of structure is because while it is only four units, it has 13 bedrooms, which is a great way to increase revenue in a by using that per bedroom structure rather than just tackling it as a whole unit.
Yeah. And what's the your purchase price on that?
That one I believe is 485,
Yeah,
485,000.
485,000.
And I believe that the yearly gross rents currently are 59,000 per year.
yeah.
But because it's student housing, all these students need to sign their leases for the next school year. So the seller actually already has signed leases, and I believe they bumped it up. Total will be what, Sam, like 63 to
I
65,000?
I think it's around 64. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that'll be, we already have those gross rents locked in for the next school year. So anyone who follows the 1% rule, basically looking at what the gross revenue is, if that's 1% of the property value or the purchase price, it doesn't mean automatically buy it. Obviously, you have to keep investigating the other expenses, utilities, the interest rates, but that might be your napkin math or your chicken scratch math to begin with to say, okay, now it's worth investigating a little bit more because it meets that 1% rule.
And are you going to raise any debt on this deal, or is it completely funded by the syndication?
So great question. So the syndication, we still take a mortgage. We do use financing to purchase the property. So while we're raising money for these syndications, we still do use traditional financing. So we have to look for deals that we are confident will not only cash flow to pay the financial institution that we're borrowing money from back, but also make sure our investors hit their return as well.
Yeah, and we also are big fans of not over leveraging yourself
Yeah.
and also not your cash down. You know, you got to have reserves. You got to have things are going to pop up that are unforeseen, whether it be a new boiler, a new roof that you didn't expect to have to put in. So we want to be conservative where we're going to put in a good chunk of the cash that we raise, but we're going to keep a bunch for reserves. And then we might even keep some to invest in a second property for the same round of syndication, depending on exactly how this first deal goes with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now that we know that you raised capital, can you talk a little bit about how you have approached raising capital with, you know, from the investors?
Like Sam kind of mentioned earlier, we had all these people reaching out to us. They saw what we were doing. We kind of mentioned, what we were doing to a few people here and there, and so many people shared that same enthusiasm for real estate as us, and they were asking us a ton of questions. How did you guys get into it? How did you learn it? What is it that you think that I should do? And we're giving everybody as much advice as we possibly can, but we also realize that most of these people are way too busy in their day-to-day lives to be able to listen to the podcasts or read the books or buy that first deal for themselves. The people that we raise money from are lawyers, doctors, people that are just so bogged down with their day-to-day lives that they don't actually have the time to do it, or at least it would just take away so much from their family to actual work, that we said, hey, if we have all these people reaching out to us anyways, and we want to continue to grow the portfolio more than what we can just personally put in money wise, let's raise money from these friends and families, and be able to grow quicker, and be able to teach everyone as we go. So that's kind of how we approached it, where we made it a learning experience where we're teaching everybody, hey, this is what we're doing. You can invest your money with us and you don't have to lift a finger. You're completely passive. You don't have to make any phone calls. You don't have to sign any, you sign paperwork in the beginning, but other than that, you're not having to sign offers and stuff like that. So we kind of approached it as an educational piece for all the people that have been reaching out to us anyways, saying that they were interested.
And one thing that we do to basically get everybody more involved and also make sure that everybody is has their who's invested has their voice heard and is a part of the process is everybody in the syndication has voting rights based off of how much ownership they have in the group. And so when major equity decisions come along, like to do a cash out refinance or to potentially sell the property, Joe and I reach out and ask everybody for their vote. And so the majority will rule. But the way, Joe and I will, of course, advise with, based on our expertise, what we think should happen. But at the same time, if the vote doesn't go our way, the vote doesn't go our way. It's everybody is involved and everybody is a part of the company in that sense, so that, everybody's voice is heard.
Now, this is interesting because normally in syndications, the syndicator or the GP is kind of making the call,
Yeah.
and the limiteds kind of follow, whether it's a capital raise or whatsoever. So limited partners, they just kind of have to follow whatever the GP has said. So instead, what you guys are doing is you are giving that power back to the limited and saying, okay, we'll go through the voting and let the votes decide what action should be taken on some major decisions. Not obviously, a small maintenance that needs to happen. So
Yeah.
you will go ahead and fix that boiler or whatever needs to be fixed.
Correct.
But whether we should reinvest this money or pay back to the investors or do a refi, so those kind of decisions, you are going back to your investors.
Yeah, so we give power to the people again, right? These fundraisers are through family and friends. Where it's all people that we know personally. We want them to be involved in the process. We want them learning. Anytime that we've had to have a decision like this, Joe and I have given our opinion and it's been followed typically because people trust that we know what we're doing, which is why they invested in the first place. But at the same time, we want everybody to make sure that their voice is heard and that they're involved in the process.
This is awesome. This is great. I think it would be awesome if more and more syndicators will do that. So syndications are a great vehicle for people to invest in, but sometimes we have seen some bad apples,
Yeah.
and that kind of brings bad name to the whole industry. And if everybody was doing the same thing, where everybody is giving voting rights to the investors, I think that's an awesome, awesome thing where everybody feels empowered.
Yeah. I think there's a major emphasis on the friends and family part for our syndications, right? We care about all the people who have invested. We know them very, very well. We want them to succeed. They want us to succeed. It's a very, very, it's almost like a real estate investing community in the sense that, we're all going to grow together. Joe and I are the ones with the expertise and who are the ones who are doing the legwork. But at the same time, we want so badly to bring a return to our investors because we know that, it'll A, lead to more investment down the line, but B, it'll lead to them taking their own steps in real estate investing, which is also one of the main reasons that we started to do this.
Great.